Hello, this is the We Like Women Pride Army Union, also known as the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. Let's create the world's biggest country. I call it the We Like Women Pride Union because this is going to make everyone like women better, And if everybody likes women better, if it's the if we're going to change like the U.S., Canada, Australia into the We Like Women Pride Union, you know what I mean? That's going to be the name of this union. Women will like it better. So that's why I call it the We Like Women Pride Union, the We Like Women Pride Army Union, the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. This is really cool. We're all one big happy family. Americans, Canadians, Australians, Europeans. We go back over, for the U.S., Canada, and Europe, we go back over 500 years. And we even have North America, South America, and Europe. We're one big happy family. Most of the Americans, including the Hispanics, Native Americans, most of the white Americans, also most of the Hispanics of North and South America, the Native people of North and South America, and the white people of North and South America, we go back over, and with Europe, we go back over 530 years, so we're one big happy family. And in Australia, the whites and the Aborigines, they go back over 230 years. So we're one big happy family. I call it the We Like Women Pride Union. And so, let's do this. This is really, really cool. Let's create the world's biggest country, and also what I'm gonna do is basically what I do is this is a new movement. I want to make it very popular. There are movements called a CANZAC, which is UK, Canada, and Australia, and New Zealand trying to be one country. So I'm gonna try to put the US in there. And so what I do is I talk about a local city in every one of these areas, so we're just familiar with these areas. I plan on making more films and start businesses, so we're just familiar with the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, North and South America. And I'm trying to stay away from the really, really big cities, because everybody knows about Paris, France. Everybody knows about New York City. Everybody knows about London. They know about all these great big cities, you know what I mean? But all the local cities in all these countries, so we can have just a cool understanding of different local cities. And anyway, so let's become one big happy country. For the United States, I'm going to talk about the city of Bend, Oregon. For Canada, I'm going to talk about Dawson City, Yukon, Canada. For Australia, I'm going to talk about the city of Bundaberg. For the UK, I'm going to talk about the city of Bournemouth. That's the UK, Canada, Australia, and the US. Now, when we bring in the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union, bringing in Europe, today I'm going to talk about the city of Lviv, Ukraine. That's Lviv, Ukraine. Europe, North America, South America, and Australia, we're all going to be one big country. I'm going to talk about the city of Colima, Mexico today. Colima. And I am in Colorado, and I always make it a point to talk about a local city about the state that I'm in. Like when I was doing some of these podcasts before in Oregon, and I was talked about some local cities in Oregon. You know what I mean? I was in Washington State. I talked about some cities in Washington. So I'm in Colorado. I'm going to talk about the city of Los Animas, Colorado. Okay, so let's become one big country. We're one big happy family. So for the UK, Canada, Australia, and the US, we're all big speaking countries. US, Canada, and Australia are huge countries, and they all speak English. So we unite the big English speaking countries. Of course, in Canada, they also speak French, and in the US, they speak a lot of Spanish. But, we're very multicultural, and we can all get along. And most people understand English. So bringing the UK, US, Canada, and Australia together. For the US, I'm going to talk about Bend, Oregon today. Bend, Oregon. Bend's a really, really cool city. It's in the city of, it's in the eastern edge of the Cascades on the Deschutes River. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. I've been to Oregon. Oregon's a beautiful state. I mean, the Oregon forests are amazing. You gotta check out the Oregon forest, And now, before 1824, the Native Americans, they hunted and they fished in this area. And in the year 1824, a guy named Peter Skeen Ogden, this guy's famous. Ogden, Utah was named after him. He's a fur trapper, Ogden. And he was one of the very first fur trapping companies to go to discover the Salt Lake Valley from the Pacific Ocean, from the west, you know what I mean? So he went, from the west and he went through this area in 1824 at a fur trapping party. Ogden, Utah is named after him, and there's a lot of places named Ogden after this guy. Another famous person who passed through here was John Fremont. There's a city called Fremont in California, close to San Francisco, named after him. And Fremont was pretty famous. There's a whole bunch of places named Fremont after him. In May 19, so this place started to settle. In 1901, there was a first sawmill here, and Oregon's, a big, huge lumber company, so they had the first sawmill here. In 1904, the city got incorporated after having about 300 residents there. They voted on it. In the year 1905, they had their first mayor. Now, this place was originally called Farewell Bend because when it's like a bend in a river, like how things bend. And when the pioneers would leave here, it would be a bend in the river, and they would go on into the Willamette Valley, Portland, that area, on up into Seattle. And so when they would leave this area, they would say Farewell Bend. So it was originally called Farewell Bend, and the United States Post Office shortened it from Farewell Bend to Bend. In 1910, they had a dam built here on the Deschutes River, in the year 1916, Deschutes County was formed. It was formed, and Bend is like the capital of this county here. Now, Bend is one of the 3 cities that has an extinct volcano right in their vicinity. Bend has an extinct volcano, so does Portland, Oregon, and so does Jackson, Mississippi. These 3 cities have extinct volcanoes in their territory. Bend is a huge tourism place. A lot of skiing, hiking, biking, rafting, golfing, camping, fishing, picnicking, rock climbing, sightseeing. It's extremely beautiful, it still has a pretty big lumber industry, and it's recently become a big scientific high-tech center. A lot of high-tech companies and high-tech workers are moving there, and so, it's a pretty cool place. Now, Bend's sister cities, and I like sister cities because sister cities, they help improve relations between, the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. We're all going to try to become one country. So it has a sister city. One is in Condega, Nicaragua, hence, North America, South America, Australia, Europe become one country. And they have another sister city in Belluno, Veneto, Italy. Belluno, Italy. And so that's kind of cool. A very famous person that hangs out here, it's a seasonal residence, that's what I heard, is Philip Knight, the Nike billionaire. He's there in Oregon too. I believe his business is in Beaverton, Oregon. Nike, just do it. Everybody loves Nike shoes. And again, none of these companies, none of these cities have any affiliation with with this video. This is just my free speech opinion. I'm just bringing up these cities. Let's become one country. And most of the stuff I get, most of it off of Wikipedia Creative Commons. And Creative Commons means that you have the right to basically talk about it. It's public information, and I'm crediting Wikipedia with most of the information. A lot of it is from my own personal, memories of watching videos, and I'm a big history buff of these different cities and Oregon. Like, I've been to Oregon many times. It's such a beautiful place. You got to check out Oregon. Yeah, but Philip Knight, that billionaire, he hangs out here. Another famous person here his name is George Putnam, and he was the mayor of Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart, the famous female flyer. And yeah, he was her husband. Yeah, from 1912 to 1913, George Putnam was mayor of Bend, and before that, he was editor of the Bend Bulletin, and he wrote books about Amelia. He also wrote books about Charles Lindbergh. But he was married to Amelia when Amelia disappeared. They were married from 1931 to 1937. And in 1937, I saw a lot of documentaries about Amelia. I love Amelia Earhart. She disappeared in the Pacific Ocean. She was leaving, I believe, Australia or someplace, right? I don't know, Australia or New Guinea, someplace, going, west, towards the United States. I'm going to pass through Hawaii, land on some islands, refuel, and then go on to the U.S. or something. But her plane disappeared, and that's still a great big mystery, but her husband, George Putnam, was married to him. So that's Bend, Oregon, everyone. Now let's talk about the history in the city of Dawson City, Yukon, in the Yukon territory of Canada. That's very close to Alaska. In 2016, it had a population of about 1,375 people. It's the second biggest town in the Yukon. Its nickname is Paris of the North. The original people that lived here were a First Nation tribe. They were the Trondek-Wet'chen. Please excuse me if I can't pronounce these names right. The Trondek-Wet'chen. This is along the Klondike River and the Yukon River, and they would gather here like in the summer to go moose hunting and fishing and stuff. So this is one of their sites. And in 1891, the city was founded by a guy named Joseph Ledoux, and Joseph Ledoux named it after George Mercer Dawson. Now, Dawson is really cool. You know, Dawson City, Yukon is named after him. Dawson Creek, you know, in British Columbia is named after him. He was a very famous explorer. He basically was really famous for exploring the Canadian Rockies and British Columbia and the Yukon area. You know, this area right here. He actually explored this area, and the city's named after him. And he really liked the First Nations tribe. He was really into like First Nations, you know, like the totem pole people in British Columbia and the First Nations of the Yukon. He wrote a lot about them and their culture, their religions, you know, and so he really documented the First Nation people and their cultures very well, and he did a really good job mapping. In 1873 to 1875, he worked for the British North American Boundary Commission, you know, like borders. 1883 to 1884, Dawson mapped the Canadian Rockies. So, you know, the British were telling this guy to go map this area. And, so that's who Dawson's named after. And in 1887, he explored and mapped, you know, northern British Columbia and the Yukon River. You know, this area here where the Yukon River and the Klondike River meet. And, so this guy's really cool. Dawson, that's who it was named after. In 1896, there was a Klondike Gold Rush, and that really brought a lot of people here. You know, a city of very little people. All of a sudden, there's like 40,000 people here. You know what I mean? This place just got packed with people. In 1899, the gold rush ended. So after 1899, it went from 40,000 people down to 8,000 people. You know, but 1902, Dawson was incorporated as a city. You know, that by that time, the population was less than 5,000. A cool place, there's a church called St. Paul's Anglican Church that was built here in 1902, and it's still here as a National Historic Site. And there's a lot of really cool historical buildings in Dawson City that are still there. I saw a documentary about it, like these really beautiful buildings that are intact, and they even have tours and stuff of like Dawson, you know, what it was like during the gold rush, and you know, these cities are kind of, and buildings are intact. Really, really cool documentaries about Dawson City. This place was the capital of the Yukon until 1952. In 1953, the capital moved to Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory. During World War II, when the Alaska Highway was built, it really, really helped. It declined the Dawson City economically, you know. But from 1950 to 1955, they built a Klondike Highway. So the Alaska Highway and the Klondike Highway got linked. Very interesting thing here. In 1978, there was a lot of buried treasure that was found here. Over 500 discarded films, you know, silent era films. You know, I believe from the gold rush that were still there. Most of these films are in the Library Archives of Canada and the U.S. Library of Congress. And they made a movie about these films in the year 2016. The movie was called Dawson City Frozen Time. So that's out there if you ever want to see it. A very famous person who hung out in Dawson in 1897 to 1898, Jack London. Jack London hung out here during the gold rush. That famous book Call of the Wild, and he wrote about Dawson City in his book Call of the Wild. And another famous person, famous for Canadian politics, is a lady named Martha Black. She was the second woman elected to the House of Commons in 1935. In the Yukon riding. And so that's really, really cool. Dawson City. And again, in my movement, the We Like Women Pride Army, one thing that we want to work on is legalizing flying cars, flying shoes, and flying backpacks. You know, a guy flew from France to England in a flying board. So we want to legalize flying boards so everyone could fly over the snow. And our goal is everyone could fly from Canada to Australia to the UK to Europe to America, North and South America, in their own flying shoes, flying cars, flying backpacks. And everyone, including kids could have flying shoes, and even senior citizens could have like flying wheelchairs, hovering wheelchairs so they could hover over the snow and everything. And that would be kind of cool. So that's one thing we do want to do to help bring us together. So now we're going to go into Australia. We're going to talk about the city of Bundaberg, Australia. Bundaberg's a really, really cool place. It's about 385 kilometers or 239 miles north of Brisbane. It's about 15 kilometers or 9.3 miles inland from the Coral Sea. It's on the Burnett River. This place was originally called Bundaberg because of Bunda. It was like these Aborigines, and Bunda was like it was a groups of Aborigines, and Bunda was one of their names, or one of the names of these they call them kinship groups and Aborigines. The original Aborigines living here were the Tari Belong people. Tari Belong. And Bunda was one of their kids. So Bunda and the city Berg means town or city in Old Saxon. So they called it Bundaberg, Bunda town. And that's how it's got its name. I believe it was in 1870 that John Charles Thompson called it Bundaberg. Now, in the year 1830s, James Davis, he was the first non-Indigenous man to settle this area. This guy was an escaped convict. He escaped from the Moreton Bay penal settlement in Australia. He went up north. And it was in 1847 that James Charles Burnett, he was exploring this area, and the Burnett River is named after him. Two famous people that settled here. One is Gregory Blaxland Jr. He was the son of the original Gregory Blaxland. And Gregory Blaxland was famous for the first person to cross the Blue Mountains in the year 1813. So his son came here in 1848, along with another guy named William Foster. Pfister, I believe, Foster. I apologize. And this guy, William, he became the premier of New South Wales from 1859 to 1860. He became he was like a premier guy, important political guy. They set up a sheep station here in 1848. Now, there was a lot of conflicts with Aborigines in this area, it wasn't perfect, but this guy, Gregory Blaxland Jr., he ended up getting killed by Aborigines. And this place, they were very famous for using what was known as the Native Police. The Native Police were Aborigine cops, and it was like 20 black Aborigine cops, and it's usually like one white chief. So they had these Aborigine cops, and so the Aborigines, the Native Police, which are black Aborigine cops, were a lot of times known to be very brutal against Aborigines, against other Aborigines, and the British, they would recruit Aborigines from one part of Australia, and bring them all the way out to another part of Australia, so they're different tribes. And these tribes would be like the cops, with one white British officer and like 20 black cops. I saw a picture of it. I'm just throwing it. It could be 10 black cops. It could be 8. It could be 30. I don't know. They were pretty brutal. There were remains of one time 20 Aboriginals. Their skeletons were found someplace, and it was believed that the black Native police, the other Aboriginal police, they basically shot all these guys or killed them or whatever. But there was some brutality here. But, things are getting a lot better now. And, again, we want to be one big country. And Aborigines and the whites of Australia go back 230 years. And the native peoples of North and South America, and Europe, we go back over 500 years. So, let's all be happy now. It's never perfect. There were countless wars, in the past, whites against whites, blacks against blacks, Hispanics against Hispanics, native against natives. These Aborigines are actually pretty brutal to each other too, So let's all just be super happy and move on. But famous for the local police. In the year 1867, the Bundaberg Township was founded. In the year 1870, it was officially named Bundaberg. Sugar was a very, very big industry. Still is a pretty big industry in this area. In 1870, sugar became a very important crop. There was a huge sugar rebellion. There was a Queensland sugar strike in the year 1911, and that resulted in a victory for the sugar workers. Apparently, the sugar workers got more pay or more benefits, or they were able to have like less hours and a day off or something. I don't know. They were always fighting for something like that, and a big victory for sugar workers in the year 1911. 1868, Samuel Johnston, he was a guy, he erected the first sawmill here. Lumber was a pretty big industry. It was a pretty cool industry. And it's a very big, tourism is really big in this industry now. A lot of people retiring here. It's known as the gateway of the southern gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. A lot of tourists come here, a lot of people retiring. And a lot of crops. They grow a lot of different types of crops here. Agriculture is pretty big. A very famous person here, his name is the Australian Lone Eagle. His name was Bert Hinkler. This guy was the first person to fly from England to Australia in the year 1928. And I like to talk about these people because, our movement, the We Like Women Pride Army, we want everyone from the UK, Canada, Australia, US, North America, South America, and Europe to fly back and forth in Rome, flying cars, flying shoes, flying backpacks. I think that'll help bring us together. So that's one reason why I'm going to push for the legalization of flying vehicles. And we want to make that a huge movement in all these countries, including Australia. But in 1928, this guy, the Australian Lone Eagle, he flew from England to Australia. And so he was really famous for doing that. Now, this guy, he did a lot of flying, and this is another good thing that hopefully will help bring us together. In 1933, he died in the Alps. He died in the Italian Alps, and he was flying, and he died. And Benito Mussolini, evil dictator Benito Mussolini, this was a good thing he did. So things like this could help bring us together, stories like this. Benito Mussolini, even though this guy was English, he ordered a full military funeral for this guy. They had a funeral, apparently, like a 21-gun salute or whatever type of military thing they do in Italy. And he got buried there in the Alps, and there's a monument in his honor. There's a monument there. So Benito Mussolini, this evil dictator, he did something, he buried one of our guys with full honor. So that's a good thing, and we want to keep bringing up stories like this to help, say, hey, we could all become one country, Europe, North America, South America, and Australia. We could all, even though we had wars in the past, we could all get along. Europe created the European Union. Why not European, American, Australian, Canadian Union? Well, let's do that, So that's a good thing. He buried one of our guys in full, full military honors, and there's a monument there. There's like a little memorial there in his honor. 1921, there was a Bundaberg War Memorial, commemorates soldiers who died in the Anglo-Boer War and in World War I. Very famous flood here in the 1960s, a very serious cyclone. So that's pretty, that's pretty, and again, it's the southern gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. I heard it's really, really beautiful. I mean, Queensland, Australia in itself is beautiful, and I hear wonderful things about Queensland. I hear that Queensland is just like this beautiful tropical paradise. I hear people go to Queensland, and it's like, they go there to visit, and they never want to come back. They just want to live there. You know what I mean? It's so beautiful. So I'm sure it's a beautiful place to visit. So if you ever go to Australia, get a chance to check out Bundaberg. One thing about Bundaberg, they're famous for Bundaberg rum and Bundaberg ginger beer. Again, these companies I mentioned, they have no affiliation with my free speech opinion. I'm just giving my opinions. Like when you go to a business or buy something, everybody gives their opinion on the internet now, Google, Facebook, whatever. Bundaberg ginger beer is really good. There's a kangaroo on it, and Bundaberg root beer. I bought this stuff over at grocery stores. I've seen Bundaberg. So if you ever go to a store, buy Bundaberg ginger beer. It's really, really cool. So that's Australia. Now we're going to talk about the UK. Okay, Bournemouth, UK. The city is called Bournemouth, UK. In 2011, it had a population of about 184,000 people. It's basically a coastal resort town. It's a coastal resort town. Before 1810, this area was barren. And in 1810, this guy named Louis Tregonwell, he bought it, and he bought 8.5 acres. And since then, it's been a very successful town. I mean, it gets over 5 million visitors annually now. And this guy's interesting. Louis Tregonwell, his whole family's been in this area for hundreds of years. His great grandfather was George Hastings, the fourth Earl of Huntingdon, or Henry Hastings, the son of George Hastings. Anyways, he was like the Earl of this area, you know what I mean? But it was always been a barren land. It's called what's known as a heath, which is, it's not a swamp, but it's those like shrubs and bushes, kind of a barren land. And this guy Tregonwell, so during the Napoleonic Wars, apparently, you know, like the British, they probably keep soldiers or people in their local area, I guess. This guy would hang out. He basically, his job was he was stationed there. He was like a border guard. He was to watch out for smugglers, and like they had the wars with Napoleon, and watch out for French troops. They weren't really worried about the French invading. I mean, they were, but they don't think. I think they destroyed the French fleet. And but there was a lot of smugglers coming into the UK smuggling stuff, and he was like a border guard. Watching this stuff, and this was his ancestral homeland. So, anyways, he got really familiar with this area. He got really familiar with the marshland. He was just basically, his job was to hang out there in the marshland and look out for smugglers. During the war, and apparently, there's smugglers there. So, After the war or whatever, he bought 8.5 acres. And in 1810, the war, I believe, really ended in 1812. But in 1810, he bought 8.5 acres from this guy named Sir George Iveson Taps, the Lord Manor of Christ Church. And and basically, the hotel started getting built there. He tried to make it like a little resort town, and he did really well. Now it gets over about 4.5 million or more, almost 5 million people annually visit this area. So that's really cool. This place was first mentioned in the year 1406. And the 1406, the first mention of Bournemouth, these monks, really religious monks, a large fish, they call it mango Pisces. Pisces means fish, mango Pisces. Apparently it was 18 foot long or 5.5 meters long. A big, large fish washed up on La Bournemouth in this area. And they talked about the big, large fish, you know what I mean? And in the 16th century, Bournemouth seems to be the name for this place. They would mention it, like in little maps and stuff here and there. But it's just like a barren land. There have been a lot of Bronze Age, Iron Age, and Paleolithic artifacts found in this area. And yeah, so this guy made it a really, really a successful area. Biggest industries in this area now are like finance, public sector, tourism. Apparently, it's nightlife. Apparently, the nightlife is really big here. Apparently, it's a really, really big resort town. I saw a documentary about. It was like during World War II. And this was during World War II. You'd figure all these families, these British families, would be hanging out on this beach here. And you'd figure that they'd be worried about, they had the German Blitz, that the Germans would go bomb them and whatever. But apparently it was in the year 1944. And I think by that time, the Germans were getting their ass kicked. So they were not worried about German invasions anymore. So in the year 1944, I saw a film about all these British families and everything, on the beach there. So that's kind of cool. It's a twin city, Lucerne, Switzerland. It's one of their twin cities. That's Lucerne, Switzerland. Okay, so that's really cool. UK, Canada, Australia, US. Let's unite these big English-speaking countries. Let's become one country. Okay, now, the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union, I'm going to talk about the city of Lviv, Ukraine. That's Lviv, Ukraine. That's the largest city in Western Ukraine. In 2020, it had a population of about 725,000. It's about 70 kilometers or 43 miles from the Polish border. And apparently it was first settled in the 5th century. That's in the year 400s. From the year 1240 to 1247, the city of Lviv was founded by King Daniel of Galatia. And this place it's always just been invaded. Like in the year 1261, it was invaded by Mongols and the city got destroyed. 1270, this King Lev rebuilt the town. And there was just always constant invasions. These Europeans, they had wars, for over 1,000 years, So this place was invaded and conquered and reconquered and fought back by Mongols, Poles, Lithuanians, Hungarians, Galatians, Ruthenians, Swedes, Turks, Russians, during the Russian Empire, Soviet Union, Cossacks, Tartars. In World War II, Germany invaded this place. It's pretty cool. So it was just constantly conquered and reconquered. Ukraine officially gained their independence in the year 1911. They gained the independence from the quote-unquote from the Soviet Union. A lot of industry here, a lot of electronics, a lot of software. They have a lot of twin cities with other European cities, and their twin cities, they have one twin city is Winnipeg, Canada, so that's Canada, and another one is Parma, Ohio in the U.S., so that's kind of cool. Lviv, Ukraine. And again, these cities have no affiliation, no official affiliation. I'm just giving my free speech opinion and talking about them. Let's all become one country. So let's just get familiar with all these cities. And in the future, I do plan on making better videos and more entertaining videos. Okay, now on into Mexico. We're going to talk about the city of, that's Europe, North America, South America, and Australia. That's another version we plan on doing. Again, different versions, just UK, Canada, Australia, US, European, American, Australian, Canadian, and one with Europe, North America, South America, and Australia. And Mexico, Colima, Mexico. It comes from the Nahuatl. That's an Aztec group. Colima means, it either means place conquered by our grandfathers or the dominion of old god or god of fire. It refers to a volcano, and apparently it's next to an active volcano. This volcano has erupted at least 40 times since 1576. It's still considered an active volcano. And in the year 1523, the Spanish settlement was founded here by Gonzalo de Sandoval, and he was taking direct orders from Hernando Cortez. Hernando Cortez, the great conqueror of the Aztecs, the conqueror of Mexico. And he told him to go and settle this place. This was the 8th settlement founded by the Spanish in the Viceroyalty of New Spain. It was in the year 1535, Hernando Cortez personally visited this place. In the year 1811, during the Mexican War of Independence, the Battle of Llano de Santa Juana was fought here. In 1824, it was officially recognized as a town. In the year 1889, they had a railroad here, the Manzanillo-Colima Railroad. They have a lot of really nice museums here and art museums, like that. That have a lot of exhibits about the culture and art here. In the year 1894, it was a Catholic cathedral built here, the Colima Catholic Basilica Menor, Cathedral de Colima. Well, a Catholic cathedral. Catholics are known for building really beautiful churches and cathedrals. It was really, really built here. A cool thing about this, in the year 1891, I like European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. I liked when other countries in our new union help each other. Like in the year 1891, the Belgians, they gave this kiosk. It's like a work of art, and it's in their Jardin Libertad. They got their center. It's like Liberty Gardens in English, and the Belgians gave him this nice work of art in 1891, and it's still there today. It's like when the French gave New York City, the Statue of Liberty to New York City to the Americans. I like those things. Other countries within Europe, North America, South America, and Australia were given to others. That'll help bring up the history of this should help. We've been together for over 500 years. We're one big happy family. Let's become one country. That's kind of cool. So the Belgians did this in 1891. Agriculture is a very, very, very big part of this community. I don't know if this is a big tourist town, but I know a lot of those towns on the Pacific coast of Mexico are really big tourist towns, and I keep hearing about how the Pacific coast of Mexico is really beautiful. People love visiting it, they keep going and visiting it. So, yeah, Colima, if you ever get a chance, check it out. I don't know. The sister city is a city called Norman, Oklahoma. That's one of their sister cities. Okay, so I'm here in Colorado now, so I make it a point to always talk about a city, about the state where I'm at. I've done these things before in Oregon. I've talked about cities in Oregon, so I'm in Colorado, so I'm going to talk about the city of Los Animas, Colorado. It's the only incorporated city in Bent County, Colorado. In 2010, it had a population of about 2,400 people. It's on the Arkansas and the Purgatory River near this historic Bent's Fort. Bent's Fort was built in 1833. historic fort. I think they did a lot of trading with the Native Americans. Now, it's just a town. The name has a really cool legend of this town. You know what I mean? According to legend, these conquistadors died here. These conquistadors died along the Purgatory River, and they died without the last rites or sacraments of a priest. See, in Catholic culture, it's called purgatory. See, when you die, you go to heaven or hell, you know? And if you don't have a sacrament of a priest, like during the funeral, you cannot go to heaven. You go into purgatory. So they're like, their souls are lost or trapped. It's like this place between heaven or hell. It's not as bad as hell, but it's not heaven, and it's trapped there. So they have to find these bodies, you know, wherever they're buried, and they have to bless them. Their culture is, so if they find the bodies of these missing conquistadors, and they, you know, give them an official funeral, you know, with God's blessing, then their souls are free to go to heaven, you know. So it's called Purgatory River. And yeah, the Catholics are really interesting religions. You know, the city of lost souls in purgatory, La Ciudad de las Animas Perdidas in Purgatorio. That means Los Animas means the souls in Spanish. The El Rio de las Animas Perdidas in Purgatorio. So it's like this, got this, you know, like this whole legend here of the Lost Conquistadors. So that's kind of a cool name, you know what I mean? I like these spiritual names and beliefs in ghosts and Catholics, you know, the ancient traditions. It gives it a character, you know what I mean? That's a legend of Los Animas. And again, none of these cities, I got most of the stuff off of Wikipedia, Creative Commons, you know, where people, you know, it's creative and you know, you have the right to talk about it, you know, for any purpose whatsoever. It's public information. Most of it is on Wikipedia. And, yeah, it's a really cool city. They built, in the 1990s, they built a reverse osmosis filtration plant to increase the water supply. They do still celebrate the Santa Fe Trail Day for pioneers. So people that went on the Santa Fe Trail, I believe that was a trail, like one of the trails where you go through New Mexico, Arizona, and on into California. They still celebrate the Santa Fe Trail Day for pioneers. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of cool. And the city I talked about too earlier, Bend, Oregon, the Oregon pioneers, a lot of them would go through Bend. And go up on into the, you know, like in Oregon, Washington, that area, you know, there were several different trails, but one of them was through Bend. I believe most of them went through the Columbia River because I was in Oregon for a while, but some of them will go through Bend. So I'm sure Bend probably has their Oregon Pioneer Day celebration or some sort of memorial. And this city has the Santa Fe Trail Day for pioneers. And remember, all these pioneers, whether they went on the Santa Fe Trail, the Oregon Trail, or the Mormon Trail or the California Trail, a lot of them started out, you know, right there along St. Louis to, you know, to like Kansas City, Missouri, that area. And you know, they started on the same trail, but it kind of split up, you know what I mean? So, yeah, anyways, so the Santa Fe Trail pioneers and the Oregon pioneers, they were all like the same pioneers originally. Most of them were for the most. They move in there, and the Oregon pioneers will go north, Santa Fe will go south. I don't know if California will go more central, Mormons will go into Utah. You know, I'm not sure how it goes, but it's like that, you know what I mean? Anyways, I want to wish you guys a fantastic, super, super happy day. Let's become one big country. Remember, there's also a lot of geopolitical reason we got to become one big country. Okay, like we're all kind of like small countries, you know, Mexico, Central America, South America, even Canada and Australia, even though they're big, they got small populations. The European countries, singly, they're mostly pretty small. When they unite, they're big. And with the U.S., we got to become a superpower because there's countries with like, you know, like China, it's got 1.4 billion people. And they're becoming a superpower. So we have to unite. If we unite, we're like 1.8 billion strong. So that'll be a united front against China. You know, they're massively building up their military. So we really got to beat up. You know, this whole coronavirus. You know, there's rumors that keep saying that it's a Chinese biological warfare weapon. You know, and so like we got to unite our military and our technology to defend against that. But I don't know if it's true or not, but it's rumors that it's biological warfare. Maybe it's not, you know what I mean? Another one is, and again, these are, you know, you just keep all this stuff on the internet. You know, there's billions of articles saying coronavirus is a deadly, you know, weapon of mass destruction, biological warfare. But then again, there's articles saying that it's not, you know, so it could be. India's got 1.3 billion people. They're building up their military. The Indians right now are much friendlier people, but they're building up their military. These Muslim countries, we, Europe, North America, South America, Australia, we're much more pro LGBTQ rights. And these Muslim countries, they're still out of it. They don't believe in LGBTQ rights, and they believe in holy war. They're always constantly having wars. So we got to unite against these really crazy Muslim countries. They got to really get rid of this holy war crap. Look at it. They're just constantly having wars with each other over religion, which is so ridiculous, So we got to unite and be strong, you know what I mean? Europe, North America, South America, and Australia. And I want to wish you guys a fantastic, super happy day. Again, everything here was from Wikipedia Creative Commons. Look out for more videos. I'm going to talk about local cities in each areas. I plan on making future videos much more entertaining. And remember, I call this the We Like Women Pride Army, so we'll make everyone like women better. I want to wish you guys a super, super happy day. Let's create the world's biggest country, the We Like Women Pride Union. Have a super happy day.